For the algebra project. Abigail's going to do her own voice recording and also send it in. So I am going to do these three. So the first slide that I'm going to do that I completed was graphs of rational functions. To graph a rational function, you have to find the vertical asymptotes and the intercepts. Once you do, then you can graph. So this first graph over here is y equals 1 over x, which is graphed in this area. You have to make a table for your x and your f of x, and which is your domain and range. And once you do so, you're able to graph it, which it should always end up like this, because if you do write your table down, it's going to be -2, -1, 0, 1, and then 2. And then on the other side, it should be -0.5, 1, 0, and then 1, and then +1, and then +0.5, which when you graph it, turns out like this. Another graph function is y equals 1x to the second power, which is over here in the lower graph. And when you graph this, it turns out with both lines on either side of the graph, and it goes pointing up. One practice problem is y equals -1 over x, and this should be on the opposite. This should be the opposite of the first graph. Just, I think it's slightly higher up than the domain, but I might be wrong with that. But anyways, it's going to be just like this graph, but flipped. So this negative is going to be positive, and this positive is going to be negative. Okay, moving on. This is simplifying rational equations. My next slide that I did. Simplifying rational equations is pretty simple, and let me give you some examples. In example number 1, you would divide 5 because that is the least common denominator, and then you would make the equation smaller by dividing, and after we subtract the exponents, and that is our final answer. So here we have 25x up to the 6th power divided by 10x up to the 2nd power. 25 and 10 both have the least common multiple, not denominator, multiple of 5. So we would divide 25 and 10 by 5, which would give us 5x up to the 6th power divided by 2x up to the 2nd power. And then we would divide our exponents. So it would be 6 minus 2, which is 4, which cancels out our x up to the 2nd on this side. So our final answer would be 5x up to the 4th power divided by 2. Finally, I will go over one of my practice problems that I did, which was subtracting of rational equations. So first we have 2a minus 3a over 3a over a minus 5. Our least common multiple of a and a minus 5 is a open parentheses a minus 5 close parentheses. We would rewrite this as 2 over a minus 3 over a minus 5 equals 2 open parentheses, so on and so forth, you can see. We would simplify this by writing 2a minus 10 over a open parentheses a minus 5 close parentheses minus 3a over a open parentheses a minus 5 close parentheses. You have to subtract the numerators, which would be the rest of the equation right here. And then we would just simplify this to get our final answer, which would be -a minus 10 over a open parentheses a minus 5 close parentheses. I think Abigail is going to put her voice recording in, but that's it for me.